Do you need strong biceps for arm wrestling?
We've worked hard for 2 days,
Yes.
right? We maxed you out on like 9 exercises.
Yeah.
Are your biceps tired or are your forearms and hands tired?
It is much more forearm and hand tired.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting thing because you brought that up actually and said it. And I was like, well, I mean, you think pulling, and obviously the bicep is involved, but it's not, and that's a good way of putting it. After you do a lot of work, it's not necessarily like, oh, my bicep feels tired, right? It's not that.
You've seen enough arm wrestling. Did you watch all the matches when you pulled Eddie? Did you watch that whole East vs. West?
Everything, yeah.
Okay, did you see anybody putting...
So it's Todd Hutchings, right? Don't you need really strong biceps for arm wrestling? Because I remember at least 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when arm wrestling was synonymous with the word biceps. So when you see someone doing like bicep curls, you think like, oh damn, they're training for arm wrestling. So let's start with anatomy, okay? So there's main movers of your elbow flexion. Like elbow flexion is very important thing in arm wrestling. Your ability to curl your hand, to keep it here is very, very important. I don't see anyone winning with just giving it up, except some kings movers maybe. But your ability to stay here is very, very important. Where, depends on arm wrestling, depends on the style. So the main flexors of your elbow are brachialis muscle, so there's a muscle right here, brachioradialis muscle, that's a muscle right here, and the bicep. So in neutral position, where almost every arm wrestling match starts, bicep is not the main flexor or the mover of your elbow flexion. It is brachialis muscle. So whenever you get in some positions where it's more pronation, more something like this, more neutral, it will brachialis and brachioradialis muscle. So biceps muscle is the main flexor of the arm when arm is fully supinated. So you can see, even with my tiny biceps, if I do this, it moves up. So now it is fully engaged. Just this, you can see it right here. Boom. Think about it like this. If you're in a match in this position, are you in a good position? Are you in a position where every arm wrestle doesn't want to be? So this is fully supinated position. And very rarely, there is some guys that can really fully supinate and go through, but you put yourself in full disadvantage. Why? Because as soon as you over supinate yourself, you give up your pronation. Your pronation is lost. And if you know anything about arm wrestling, when you arm wrestle someone, like all I'm trying to get is turn their arm up to get to that bicep and open it up. Developing some bicep is important. We'll talk about it a little later. But first to understand it, like in all these positions, if you move sideways like this, bicep is almost not activated. You can almost feel it. If you arm wrestle someone and you try to top roll them, you can check your bicep and it's, it's not tense enough, it's not pumped. It's pretty, soft. When you hook someone and you go full supination, yes, your bicep is going to get activated, but you're giving up some other things. And we have figured out in arm wrestling a long time ago that it's better to be in a match, because if you give up those things and you're not strong enough just to go sideways straight away, you're going to get pinned down, you're going to be in a defensive position, and you will have to fight to survive. Would that mean not to train your bicep at all? No, it doesn't mean like that. You still need it for many different things. First of all, the overall balance. Like even here, it works. Even here, it works, right? You just don't want it to overdo everything, because that puts you in a bad position where you cannot engage your pronator. And I see this a lot of times with a lot of athletes that come from different sports to arm wrestling. They're very strong at their bicep curls, and then they over supinate themselves and they don't have any protection of the pronator, and the arm just opens up. Like the pronator here is a glue that allows this point to stay up, like right here. If it gets rotated, and you can check it and see if you can supinate your arm fully and then go sideways, you put yourself in a very bad position and not efficient position. So balance is another thing. You really need balance. So these muscles, working from these positions where almost any arm muscle will stay, even if you hook, sometimes like you don't change position, you can go fully supinated, but you stay like this, but you still put more pressure on brachialis and brachioradialis muscle, and these will get inflamed, and there's going to be a lot of pain, and brachialis pain is something that almost every top roller has dealt with. So doing supination curls where you fully supinate your arm is very beneficial, because it takes away the tension from this and puts it on a bicep, and it evens it out. So all these things matter, but training your bicep, really, it's not a good idea. And yet we still do most exercises with it, but you don't even train your bicep while I see it. So let's see like this. You see almost every arm wrestler doing their bicep curls really heavy, and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. But again, how much of your bicep is actually working, or is it your elbow flexors? And I think at this point we need to change the language a little bit. So I have a straight bar that almost no one uses because it's very uncomfortable. Breaks your arms, breaks your wrists, easy, and puts you in this position. So very rarely you will see someone doing bicep curl. Even strict curls, when they do strict curls, they will have a bar that's very bent, where the bicep is taking less tension and all the other elbow flexors are taking the most tension. So this is not me talking out of my ass, this is scientific facts. So your arm is fully supinated, you work like this will hit your biceps. For arm wrestling, these curls do matter, but these are not full bicep curls because my arm is turned 45 degrees. This is like a very shallow, easy curl bar, but there's ones where it's like this, and then think about like the muscles you hit most. It's not the biceps. It's not the biceps. Even when we're doing our preacher curls, we'll cut it out. Even when we do our preacher curls, if you do it here, if you have your arm in a straight line, because this is a hinge, this has to move like this. We do it like this, where we compensate with things, where the bicep is not getting it's getting some tension, but not all the tension. And we do it like this. So like training your bicep, I think it's just not the right thing to say. Saying that biceps are not important, clearly it's also not the right thing to say. But in my opinion, they're less important, like fully bicep is not as important as brachialis power, brachioradialis power. All those things matter because every match starts like this. If every match started like this, then we could talk about some different things. In matches, there's arm wrestlers that do use it very well, that goes fully supinated and they change their position. Let's go on the table right here. So it's all about positioning. If you arm wrestle like this, you can see my arm never changed position. Doesn't matter where I am. The bicep is not hitting more because my pronator is protecting it, and even if you open it up like this, pronator, brachialis, and everything else is working. There's arm wrestlers that fully supinate like this and they go down like this. As soon as your arm is turned here, bicep is taking more tension than the rest of the muscles. But if you have good enough pronator, and we see it in moves like King's Hook, where guys will be like this, and they protect it with good pronation of the hand. It's very hard to open their bicep up, and from position, it's very hard to access it. So there is styles that still use it, and I always look at the position. So even I don't hit fully supinated, I hit sideways like this. And because I trained a lot here, I'm much stronger if I can get my opponent here than being here. So it really depends on you. But training your biceps for full supination, if you're not using that style, going really heavy, I don't think it's a good idea. Also, I don't see anyone doing it. I think just everyone is using the language wrong. They're saying biceps when they actually mean elbow flexors. And by elbow flexors, they actually mean brachialis and brachioradialis muscles. So I think there's a little disconnect because there's a clear definition. What is a bicep muscle? What are the functions of bicep muscle? And where it gets involved and where it doesn't get involved. And I think that is the big misconception in this one. Still, for balance, I think you need to do a lot of things to stay healthy, to stay long in arm wrestling without terrible injuries. If you never go to some positions, you're never going to get stronger in those positions. And I feel like finding that balance is the hard part. You needed something, but no one has ever gotten really strong in arm wrestling doing straight bar, full range bicep curls. Like they will develop some strength, but you will be limited in all those positions. And if you develop strength of being really comfortable here, you will, as soon as the match starts, will go here. And someone with a very good attack sideways will just push you down. Like I said, almost in every arm wrestling match, you try to open up things. You try to open up someone's angle, what we call here, angle, back pressure. You're trying to rotate them, right? You're trying to open it up and rotate, and you're trying to pull them down. You want to get access to that bicep because it puts you in a huge disadvantaged position. So again, there's guys that can win it in some brutal matches, some guys that can really defend it, but most of the time, they are not fully supinated. They are still pronated. The pronation is what keeps it all alive and makes all the other muscles activated. If they start going like this and then fully go through, that is the moment where everything broke and the biceps carried them through the match. Yeah, so this is my take. I do agree with Uncle Todd. Biceps are not that important. We have seen it many times. And even for Todd Hutchings' style, like Todd is a Todd roller. He's not a top roller, he's a Todd roller. So he keeps his arm like this. It never goes like this. If someone puts him in a deep position like this, then he do it. He prefers to attack like this. He attacks through the back pressure, side pressure, and pronation by keeping his pronator engaged. If you end up in those positions, that's where the bicep gets activated, that's where you need it. And from what I've seen from Todd Hutchings' videos, he does like all the exercise he does is a little bit on the angle, not all, but they will try to open him up, so his back pressure is very much working. And he's one of those guys where you think it's all going sideways. No, his ability to keep his arm close to his body is the reason why he has such amazing side pressure. Because sometimes guys will just use one and give up the other. They will think side pressure is just this, they will think back pressure is just this, while it's a combination of both and what kind of strengths you have developed. So yeah, I kind of talked a lot about this, but I think there was some things needed to be said. Let me know your thoughts about it. How wrong am I? Stay strong. Love arm wrestling.